this feels different because from week one, when I'm watching Rockhurst at Pius and you find out that night, like Rockhurst is now in Class 5, that this was a potential matchup that was looming.
Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm here as always with my good friend Ryan Wallace, and we're talking about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. This past week, we went out to different games, with Ryan heading to Maize's 56-34 victory over Wichita East, and me going to Shawnee Mission Northwest's 38-31 win over Lawrence Free State. We'll talk about those games, preview our upcoming game, and also share Ryan's interview with Maize's Brayden Myovela, arguably the top uncommitted player left in the state. Stay tuned for that. If you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, leave us a review, a 5-star rating, wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. We have our own specific audio channel through KCSN on Apple and Spotify, so you can seek us out there. As always, we appreciate you guys helping us to grow and getting us in front of more people like you. On a serious note, before we get into the show, we wanted to send our thoughts to Eudora offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Jason Tharp and his family after his wife Sarah passed away in a car crash. We'll be thinking of you, your family, the team, and the community as they prepare for this week's game against Bishop Maize. Getting into the show, none of Kansas, Kansas State, or Missouri landed a commitment this week. When they do, we'll break it down on the show, as always. But there was one major local commitment, with former Kansas commitment and Manhattan High star J.J. Dunnigan committing to Miami. Ryan, the Hurricanes are getting a good one here.
Yeah, short and sweet. This is kind of the one that we thought he would go to. Obviously, there was the visit to Colorado, but I think that was more just to give Dion and Coach Prime some respect, see if there was maybe anything that really caught his attention, but it really felt like this has been leaning Miami's way for maybe even longer than we initially thought. I guess the only thing that I'll say, because again, we kind of addressed this, what was it, last show or 2 shows ago, is look, at the end of the day, I do feel like this is a good move and a good choice for J.J. Dunnigan, simply from the standpoint of what I said before, which is this will eliminate any itch that he might have had he chose a K-State, a KU, a Colorado, anything like that. Nebraska, I think, way back when, right? This eliminates any of that where you're at a brand name with the history. Immediately you find out like you're either Miami worthy or not. You're either testing yourself against the best or you're not. Whereas had he maybe gone somewhere else, there could have been an itch of like, God, I'd love to see what I could do against Clemson's receivers. God, I'd love to see what I could do against Alabama in the non-con, or whoever it is that Mario Cristobal and that program schedule. This eliminates that right out of the gate. Like, he's either going to be the next big DB out of the U, or he finds out like maybe this just isn't my cup of tea. Maybe Miami's not my cup of tea as a community, and he can go back and be a home run for somebody else. But as a KU person, I'm sure that they don't want to hear anybody say this, but like at the end of the day, I do feel like maybe there are some more positives that can be gained, with the right approach here.
Let's go ahead and get into our Tacos for Life Player of the Week. Tacos for Life has a wide variety of options to choose from in their fresh scratch kitchen and locations in 8 states, including right here in Kansas and Overland Park, with catering and food truck options available as well. For those parents, make sure to dine in for the $1.99 kids meal after 4. And for every taco, rice bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos that you enjoy, a meal is donated to Feed My Starving Children on a meal-for-meal basis. Those meals are then shipped out to more than 90 countries, to feeding centers, care points, orphanages, schools, and refugee camps. The Overland Park location has given out more than 736,000 meals over 3 years, while Tacos for Life as a whole has donated nearly 43 million meals. It's a great cause, and you can help just by doing what we all know and love, chowing down on some great tacos. Every week, we will pick a Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week, and this week's pick is 2026 Mill Valley defensive tackle Hayden Heller. Not only has Hayden had just a terrific season overall, he's a big part of the reason why the Jaguars are still alive this week after stuffing St. Thomas Aquinas' final 2-point attempt to secure Mill Valley's victory over a team that a lot of people felt was the state's best. Ryan, I know we saw Hayden in person earlier this year as well. So what's he doing well on the gridiron this year?
Well, I mean, overall, complete package from a defensive tackle, 6 foot, 280 pounds, really compact. But, just very strong, so muscular. You go on his X page, 600-pound squat, 345-pound bench press, 310-pound hang clean. And, oh, by the way, he's a 4.0 plus GPA student. But, yeah, you see what he did. All of these highlights are from the big playoff win against Aquinas. Several different goal line stands that you see he's a part of, and he's taking on one-on-one a guy that you and I both love in Stephen Carroll, who's got a great wrestling background. You see here's one of the stops, and then we finish it with the stop that sealed it for Mill Valley. And again, Kevin, low man wins, and there's Hayden Heller, low man wins every time. And just an unbelievable performance. Again, I think if you had told Randy Dreiling, hell, even Joel Appleby, how would you feel about St. Thomas Aquinas on the goal line? Like not once, but twice, maybe even more than that. And whether it's holding them out for 6 points or holding them out for 2 points, I would imagine Randy Dreiling would have taken his odds more than not. And Joel Appleby would probably go, I don't know how I feel about that. That's right up Aquinas' wheelhouse. And yet here's Mill Valley led in the middle by Hayden Heller, doing to Aquinas what like nobody does to Aquinas in those type of situations. I thought that spoke volumes about the Mill Valley defense and their fundamentals and how they were taught and their prep for this game. But I think it also speaks volumes about the player and the prospect that Hayden Heller still on the market at that. And we'll ask him about it because Kevin, he didn't get a chance to celebrate very long. He was up at Drake right after that St. Thomas Aquinas win on a game day visit. So curious to see where his recruiting is going because, man, he's had a monstrous senior season that, got an exclamation mark last week, and he hopes to put a couple more punctuations here as the bracket continues forward.
And here is our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. Hayden, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hayden, you guys had kind of a controversial loss to Aquinas a year ago. The Saints score with less than a minute left. They're going for 2 in the win rather than going for 1 in the tie. And you and Kendon Charbonneau stuffed the run to secure the win. What were you thinking as you guys were lining up in that situation for that play? And what was the feeling like for you guys after you got the stop?
When we were lining up, I was really just thinking about who they want to get the ball to. And I knew they wanted to run it behind their offensive lineman that their go-to, Steven. And I knew they wanted to get the ball to Callan, 23. So I was really just gearing up. We got a goal line stop earlier, so I was confident we could do it again. And so I just got as low as I could because I knew they were going to be low and drive through and just try and make a play.
I was going to say, before you jumped on, it was definitely a low man win situation, and you won. You mentioned going against Stephen Carroll. How were you able to get the best of he and such a physical Aquinas offensive line? Was there anything that you just felt like you and your D-line just really seemed to excel at for that Friday night?
I think, like you said, pad level, low man wins. We praised it all week. We knew it was going to be the driving factor in who won the battle up front, and we just like we said, preached it all week in film. If you weren't low enough, you weren't getting yelled at, but you were getting talked to about it. Drills, everything's got to be low, and yeah, just pad level all the way.
You had to overcome an injury this past offseason. When did you feel like you were fully healthy? I remember seeing you in the scrimmage against Derby and Staley and thinking like, man, Hayden's back and ready for more.
Yeah, that was really my first action. Just to get the feet wet. They only let me go like 2 plays of drive, but I felt ready right then and there. I mean, just the adrenaline of getting back and playing after, being out for 9 months is just so crazy. And I felt like I was healthy right then and there. Of course, a little bit sore after, but I definitely felt ready to go right then and there to play a game.
Hayden, before you jumped on, I rattled through some of your impressive weight room numbers, and I think that translates to your game every time we've seen you and even on film. Have you always kind of been a weight room junkie? Is that something that you've always embraced, or was that something that you had to kind of learn to love, and the Mill Valley Strength and Conditioning program just now it's something that is natural to you and that you do love?
I definitely say I had to learn to love it. As a middle schooler, I was more of a skinny kid or a middleweight kid, and I played basketball. But as I got bigger and I broke my leg freshman year, I knew I had to start to love it and start to get after it in the weight room. And so I just put my head down and just got to work, hard work over everything, and then luckily with how good my PT sessions were going with my ACL, and then just all the hard work I put in the years before, it just helped me get to those numbers, and I'm grateful to be there.
Mill Valley has kind of this incredible tradition of defensive linemen, whether it's Ethan Creamer, or whether it was Jaden Woods a year ago. You're having all kinds of success this year. Who's up next, Hayden? Who are the young guys in that defensive line room that you think, hey, these are some guys that could be pretty good coming up through the program?
With a couple of seniors transferring out last year, we've had a lot of juniors step up, and I feel like really all of them have done a great job. LJ, Larry Jones, Josh Garcia, who got injured but is fighting to be back possibly this week, hopefully next week. Taj Coleman, who's stepping up at the nose position, as well as Easton, who's stepping up. Easton Englehart is stepping up at the nose position. All those guys really stepped up when we had seniors either who stopped playing football or who transferred out. And so I feel like all those guys are next up, and as they're getting experience as juniors, they'll definitely be a force to be reckoned with next year.
Hayden, I'm curious, how much do you credit a guy like LaMarcus Barber with helping you grow as a player? I would imagine those one-on-one battles are exhausting, but also very fulfilling when you get to this point and you're taking on a Stephen Carroll and some of these guys and earning victories.
100% is like one of the biggest helps. I mean, me and him have had a scoreboard forever. Recently, he's been getting the best of me because I feel like I've gotten all my moves out, and now he knows all of them. But yeah, it helps a lot because during the summer we always go best on best, and so getting a whole summer going against him, and then a little preseason and fall camp going against him, I'm probably one of the more lucky D linemen in the league who gets to go against such an elite offensive lineman like him.
What is it about the Mill Valley Weights program that makes you guys so good in the trenches?
I feel like it's a combination of just the consistency of seeing teams before do it, but also our strength coach, Coach Jamie Rezegi. He brings energy every day, and he knows what he's doing, and we have all just bought into what he's been doing. He was new my senior class of sophomore year, and it was a little weird at first, but we just have bought into it, and I feel like him and also seeing the seniors before succeed with the weights program and what Coach Appleby has a culture of, it's just a combination of them both, really.
Hayden, is there a better feeling than being a varsity starter on Mill Valley and finally getting that chance? And I'm not talking about you this year, but in years past, to finally be able to throw that fin up as a land shark. And is that something you have to earn? Like, does it have to be a certain play, or does it just come with the emotion of it?
I feel like it's kind of in the moment thing, because as a kid, you see the Ethan Kramers or you see the Truman Griffiths when I was a freshman throwing it up. And like I played with Jaden as a little kid, so seeing him throw it up, I feel like you have to earn it a little bit.
Okay.
You have to work through that summer. You have to get through that boot camp. But if you get on the field and you make a play, like a tackle for loss, a sack, a pick, it's definitely well deserved because of all the work we put in to get to that game.
you guys face a really tough St. James Academy team. Then you've got another team that's going to be really good from the top of the bracket, somebody really good from out west. But at the same time, what would it mean for you guys to sort of recapture the state title thing? Because obviously you go to your stadium, you see the state titles lined up. There's a little bit of a gap right now from when the last one was. What would it mean for you guys to be able to add another number up to the board?
I feel like it'd mean a lot, but it'd mean the most to me in the senior class. Seeing us come up short last year was definitely tough, especially with me not being on the field. But, with the amount of work we've put in and what we've learned from last year and how we've needed to become leaders on this team, it'd just be like a full circle moment almost, because we've really been prepping for this since like 358 days ago, or however long it was since that tragic loss. So, I mean, it'd be a proud moment. It'd be such a surreal moment too. It's our Coach Ab, we always praise this. It's one of the best feelings in the world besides either marrying or having a kid. So
one more question for me, Hayden. Off the field, you finish the game, you immediately go out to Drake and take your visit. How was that visit, one, and two, where's your recruiting at right now? Who are some of the schools that you're hearing from, and is there anybody that you'd like to be hearing from?
It feels good, of course it feels better than going out there after a loss, but it was good. I've been up there before, and so it was nice just seeing the coaches again. A little bit of a cold game, sadly. It was snowing out there, so that was tough. But and then right now, I'm a little behind in the recruiting process, I feel, just because of my torn ACL and everybody just wanting to see what my senior film looks like. But right now it's just MIAA schools and then Drake. It'd be cool to hear from some more FCS schools that were talking to me before my injury. But right now, just the top MIAA schools like Pitt State, UNK, who's doing well this season, Washburn, UCM, mainly the schools around here.
Best thing to help out a long state title run, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Hayden, as our player of the week, we'll be sending you and all of our future Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week picks a gift card to enjoy the food at Tacos for Life.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back on the Verbal Commitment Podcast after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast. You can follow along with us on Twitter/X at verbalcommit_KC for clips from the show, conversations about local players, and even the odd highlight. And calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss in the Chiefs home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is a proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan, you saw Maize continue its undefeated season with a win over Wichita East, and you came away really impressed with Eagles quarterback Brayden Myovela, who we actually had on our list of the most under-recruited players in Missouri and Kansas here a few episodes ago. My understanding is you may be willing to double down on that take.
Yeah, triple down on it, in fact. Yeah, I mean, and obviously it was the type of game where he's going to impress you. 6 touchdowns, 350 rushing yards. And here's the thing about watching Brayden Myovela is there's something about his game where it almost seems effortless. He's running away from a very fast, very athletic Wichita East team by 20 yards, 25 yards. It was like watching a varsity team at some points, at least some plays, watching a varsity team against a JV team. And that is an athletic, like I said, that Wichita East defense is better than that. But there were a couple plays where Brayden Myovela was just like man amongst boys. And it's really interesting, Kevin, like his whole recruitment, because look, I understand where some of the local Power Fours are coming from the standpoint of, look, in today's day and age, with the way that NIL is and the way that roster management is, like, the days of taking a quote project or really rolling dice on a kid like Brayden that doesn't have any real game film as, say, a receiver, I get where there's some major hesitancy. But then you see the type of senior season Brayden Myovela is having, and you see him in person, and you're like, wow, he really is every bit of 6'3", 200 plus pounds. He really can separate like that. Like I told you when I came back to my car on Friday night, it was like, I was trying to think of like a comparison for him, and at least as a quarterback, our KU and K-State fans will understand this. There's Trayvon Boykin to his game, and the way that it's so smooth watching him run, where he's not straining, and before you know it, he's 30 yards downfield. And then at the same time, the way that he throws the ball, there's kind of that flick of the wrist, kind of a different motion. But at the same time, like, the more I watch him, the more I talk to the Maize staff. Look, if he really dedicated himself to being a quarterback, I don't know that he couldn't be a collegiate quarterback, probably not at the Power 4 level, but maybe at another level in a certain type of scheme. Yeah. But by and large, Kevin, I came away going, look, if K-State and KU aren't going to offer, I can grind my teeth a little bit on that. But, like, how is Tulsa the only FBS offer here, right? Like, where is everybody else? Every FCS team under the sun should be after this kid. Credit to former K-Stater Cody Cook, Ricky Ronnie's staff at Old Dominion. They're pulling the trigger. I know that there's some other staffs that are starting to, again, that late in the process type of thing where, there's a roster opening that comes available and you're trying to see kind of who's best available, whose film really pops. Brayden Myovela can do that for you. He is the real deal. Like, I think that there's a real conversation to be had about, and I know it'll be hard with him not being committed right now, and so many other guys in that top 10 being Power 4 commits. I think there's a real conversation to be had about him being a top 10 prospect in the state of Kansas this year. I think he is that level of athlete. Get him on your roster, figure it out later. We say it all the time.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. And it's worth noting that, yes, Tate Nagy did play receiver at KU's camp, but Tate Nagy did not have wide receiver take.
Yeah.
When KU wound up taking Tate Nagy as a wide receiver. Brayden Myovela, we've seen Brayden play wide receiver. It was as a sophomore, but he did play wide receiver previously. And so I think when you look at that, when you look at the measurables and all the things out there, like you said, I do think he could play quarterback in certain systems, but get him in and figure it out. I don't think that's too
well.
tough.
And I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because it does irk me a little bit that, you wonder, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Kevin, because you might have a better memory of this, but like Terry Bussey, that ends up being a 5-star. Brayden Myovela is not a 5-star. He's not Terry Bussey, but Terry Bussey played quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. And it was at kind of a lower level too. And so, like, granted, he had things that were like immediately like, it's a yes. But again, like, I feel like if Brayden Myovela at 6'3", 200 pounds was playing quarterback and still doing the things that he's doing now in a state like Texas, it wouldn't even be a question. And it does bother me that then you have a kid like this doing this in Kansas. And there's a theory out there of like, well, if K-State and KU aren't interested or that like really pushing that hard for this kid, there is a theory out there, and I think it's conceivable that like other out-of-state schools are going to be like, well, why hadn't K-State and KU offered? If they're not after him, we're not going to be after him. It's a crazy way to think. I'd like to believe that recruiting isn't that lazy anymore and that coaches actually flip on tape and trust their gut. But yeah, the whole recruiting situation for Brayden Myovela is unfortunate. But that's why we are going to be here pounding the stone, so to speak, and making sure that, he gets the attention that he deserves, because he is every bit the player and the person that you all are seeing on social media. If you see it in person, it delivers time and time again. And I'll finish by saying this, Kevin, in a long rant. If you didn't think that this kid was legit before now, for whatever reason, he's going against JJ Dunnigan this Friday night. And I guarantee you there's going to be, I mean, if there's anybody that can spy a Brayden Myovela on the QB keeps, it's going to be a JJ Dunnigan. This will be interesting tape to watch, Kevin, because I could see JJ getting the best of Brayden here and there. I can darn well see Brayden Myovela getting the best of JJ Dunnigan a time or two as well. So keep an eye on that tape in particular, because that could be one, if it's a good night for Myovela and Maize, that could be one that he could really lean on with college coaches.
Anybody else pop out to you from that game?
Yeah, Nolan Hadley, real quick. We talked about him going into the game last week. 2027 left tackle. He's probably going to slide inside at guard, but, a nasty kid. There was maybe some extracurricular at time, but I love seeing that kind of edge to a lineman as long as they can kind of keep it together. And Nolan did. He is a physical kid. And again, kind of likes to get after it a little bit. And so that always brings a smile to my face. I would rather have a guy in the trenches that likes to get a little dirty sometimes, as opposed to more of a finesse kid. And then I'll tell you the other player that really caught my attention in a good way, mentioned him on the show last week that I liked his tape, but then you see him in person. He is a lot taller, a lot longer. Ty Willits, having a really strong season. I think he's the type of kid that, just hasn't quite fully invested maybe all into football. He's a multi-sport athlete kid. Sounds like he's starting to lean that direction. I would encourage coaches to put on that tape, invest some time in Ty Willits, because there's a lot that I liked about just what his game is now, but especially where it could go with the frame that he has, kind of that roaming safety. But he can split out and play some corner at the high school level. So really good athlete with length.
I went to see my alma mater, Shawnee Mission Northwest, win over Lawrence Free State 38-31. And the headliner was a guy who, like Myovela, has had an all-state type season, who has helped to carry his team deep into the postseason. Like Myovela, don't know that he's a quarterback, but Trey Woodruff is having a terrific season. I think he's got 11 touchdowns in 2 playoff games, Ryan. Just tremendous quickness, agility, speed, all of those things. And quarterback in a flex bone, he's probably going to be a DB or a wide receiver, I would think, at the next level. But another guy that you turn on the tape and he wows you.
Was there anything that you didn't expect out of Trey Woodruff, or kind of like I was saying about Ty Willits, that, you showed up and kind of caught your attention in a good way?
Well, full disclosure for everybody here, Nick Springer, our producer, actually was at the same game, and he dropped into the chat that he couldn't believe his vision. And that was something that I think you see a lot more in person than you see on tape, because there were times where it didn't seem like there was a gap or a hole there, and his ability to find it, make himself small, and kind of pop out on the other side. Like, surprise, guys, I'm at the second level again. Was pretty impressive. He's tougher to tackle than you would think too, Ryan. He makes yards after contact, and it's not, hey, I'm running over guys, but it's, I lean this way, I kind of spin this way, and next thing you know, you played the run perfectly, and he got 6 yards anyway. And I think that's one of the things that stands out, because you watch the tape, you see the highlights, you see him running away from people. He obviously has great speed, quickness, athleticism, but I think it's his skill with the ball in his hands that really stands out when you see him in person.
Well, in another matchup where get the oxygen out, because both sidelines will need it. This could end up being a Trey Woodruff versus Sire Padilla show on Friday night of who has enough left in the tank to reel off, one more big time run. That could be a quick game. The clock might move pretty quick, but yeah, that will be a fun one between those two in the rushing department.
Northwest's offensive line, I think, is underrated. They have some guys there, and it's really nice for them to have that sledgehammer in Demetric Tyler to kind of soften things up. Between getting Woodruff's speed and elusiveness, all of a sudden you get Tyler's power coming through the middle as well. It's a nice change of pace. As for Free State, this is a program we're really familiar with, Ryan, and there's a lot of talent on Coach Stewart's squad, but ultimately they kind of broke down. They had a lot of injuries. Madden Brittingham is a show favorite, and he played really well. He had a one-handed catch that he turned into catch and run for a 72-yard touchdown before he left the game with an ankle injury later on. Brayden Wilmus, who's headed to Clemson as an offensive tackle, was as advertised. And Finn Moore, that kid just battles. I mean, it shouldn't surprise you because his brother's Parker Moore, who obviously had a lot of heart, a lot of athleticism, and Finn has that too. But Free State was down several kids late, and Finn Moore gave them at least a chance with the way that he continued to grind things out and battle. He and Madden Brittingham are both juniors, so watch out for those guys next year with the Free State team that also brings back Reese Wilmus, who's a sophomore. Free State could have a pretty good roster next year as well.
Interesting. Very interesting on the Firebirds.
Yeah, for sure. This week, Ryan and I will be back in the same place again, and it will be a big one. Rockhurst at Platte County. Let's start with Platte County real quick, Ryan. This is a team that's as loaded as any team is locally, maybe in the region, and that includes a number of college prospects.
Can I just say how fired up and pumped up I am for this game?
Yeah.
My
heart rate increased just mentioning it.
I feel like a kid that can't. I feel like I'm going to do it on the show. We don't do it very often, but I'm going to do it. I feel like the JV kid that gets to roam the varsity sidelines on a Friday night with the "let's fucking go." I feel like that. I am that guy this whole week. This game, it feels different, Kevin. You and I have been to games in the past, in recent past, right? And I don't even have to go through all the matchups, but where you knew you were equally excited, but it was a case of two teams that had met each other in the regular season and now they meet again in the playoffs, or a case of an Aquinas Mill Valley situation where they always seem to meet in the playoffs. This has become an annual thing. This feels different because from week one, when I'm watching Rockhurst at Pius and you find out that night, Rockhurst is now in Class 5, that this was a potential matchup that was looming. And Platte, you knew Platte was going to go untested most of the season. And yet here they are untested much of the season facing a Rockhurst. Platte County is the type of community that is going to show up for this one. This is that dream scenario, Kevin, that you always find yourself thinking if you're Platte County, man, I'd love to know what our guys could do against a Rockhurst. And now that's happening. This is, I've gone way overboard on that, but it gives you an idea of just how massive this game is. And again, when you talk about Platte County, we mentioned, early on a couple episodes ago, Blue Spring South was the best team that we had seen in person. And we kind of caveated that by saying, we have not seen Platte County yet. We have not seen Platte County yet. Platte County is loaded. This is a team that could win at Class 6. They could win in 6A on the Kansas side. They beat teams in 6A on the Kansas side. They're unbelievable. And I mean, people know about the big three, if you will, right? The Rocco Marriott, Braden Stevens, and Jack Oots. But as you can see from this graphic, this is a recruiting class of seniors that goes far beyond that. And Kevin, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a name or two that I'm going to find out I missed that is getting major recruits or recruited at a major level. You see Rocco Marriott with the James Madison question mark because he is pictured in the Missouri uniform down below to the right. There could be a flip coming potentially, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Sounds like he wants to ride the senior season out first. Jack Oots, Braden Stevens, obviously the new Minnesota commitment. You've got Brooks Hall, that again, another question mark because he's stacking up Power 4 offers, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. That recruiting stock is hot. Cale Bunce, South Dakota State. And then you go down the list. I mean, you can, frown if you want to at a Division III or NAIA offers. But to have this many kids that, are being believed in to come to 4-year programs is unbelievable. And every one of them is a difference maker on this team. So this is as good of a Class 5 roster that I can remember in quite some time, Kevin.
Yeah, you go down that list, Ryan, and you find Trace Baskerville. he was a Tacos for Life Player of the Week at one point. Like that. That's how loaded this roster is. And I think you drop Brooks Hall on just about any other roster in the Metro, and he's prospect 1A, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the crazy thing about how loaded this team is. It's going to be a lot of fun to see this team go, just because I think you put it well in that it's not just the power four guys that are the guys that are showing out. It's all of those guys. And when you watch tape, all of those guys are popping in their respective areas, which is why Platte County isn't just undefeated, Ryan. They've been unchallenged for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the thing that makes this team really sort of jump out at this point, and also why it makes this a really fun game to kind of track.
Well, I know it's your job to kind of tease what's coming up in the next segment, but I will just say you kind of teed it up for me a little bit there, in that on the other side, I mean, we will chat a little bit, I'm sure, about some of the bigger names that are going to be in this game, but I thought it would be entertaining to also draw some attention at some of those other, quote, other guys that might end up having a big impact in either team being the victor on Friday night. So stay tuned for that.
We had a chance to speak with Maize athlete Brayden Myovela, who, of course, we talked about earlier in this segment, one of the top players in the state of Kansas this season. Stay tuned for that interview and a deeper look at Platte County Rockhurst after this.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home, because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise, because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity, because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
This is the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on KCSN. Ryan, you have a bit of an advantage here in that you saw Rockhurst early this year when the Hawklets opened their season with a 30-point win over Pius. And this is a battle-tested program that's only a pair of 9-point losses away from them being undefeated themselves.
No doubt. I mean, that was straight cash, homie. In that first week against Pius, that was Cash Lewandowski's coming out party. A lot of good pieces from that game that you could just tell that was going to be a team that was going to be a force to be reckoned with as they matured a little bit, and they have.
Good quarterback play too for Rockhurst right now. It's something that you and I looked at before the season and said, hey, we're not sure exactly what that position is going to look like. It's come along really nicely for the Hawklets and given them some balance too.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, a line that you can kind of do whatever behind. You've got a running back that you can lean on. So that's definitely made life easy for the Hawklets offense for sure.
Yeah, then obviously Kevin Sullivan, you talked about Jack Oots on the other side. His counterpart and a guy that he's going to be competing with for refs at Kansas, another tight end, Kevin Sullivan, is on the other side. And so I think when you look at all those guys, those are kind of some of the headliners, I feel like, in this matchup, Ryan, but you teased it before the break. You kind of have some guys that you're watching in this game that are maybe, if you want to say, below the fold of the newspaper that could ultimately wind up, maybe even deciding this game.
Would you rather me start with the Pirates or the Hawklets?
Let's go ahead and start with the Hawklets, and we'll get back to the Pirates.
Okay. So here's the thing. You mentioned Kevin Sullivan, and I think he's got a chance to, kind of plant his flag, so to speak, in this game, just because you're going to see how big he is in person, how athletic he is for his size, the fact that he's making a difference at defensive end and tight end. But I'll tell you what, there's another Sullivan for Rockhurst, Declan Sullivan, that I think has a chance to make a real impact and be a problem for Platte County on Friday night. Declan is more of an interior player as a defensive lineman, but what you notice from Declan is how strong he is and how quick he is off the snap. Platte County's got a really sturdy line, a very, sound line, but at the same time, they're not overly big. And I think Declan Sullivan can provide not only strength, but the burst. You see the quickness right off the snap, that first move that I could see giving Platte County some problems and keep a guy like Raquel Marriott on the move, off tempo, off script. Look, the idea of Platte County not operating like in any kind of rhythm, like getting thrown that far off and completely coming unglued and unhinged, seems very far-fetched, right? But if you are Rockhurst and you have a chance to, even let's say on a 10-play drive, that you can kind of get them off beat for even 1 or 2 plays and give yourself a chance at maybe a mistake here or there, I think that's a win for Rockhurst. And again, I feel like Declan Sullivan is a guy that can possibly do that from the interior, right? And be a disruptive force both in the run and in the pass. The other guy that I wanted to tease here real quick, Kevin, before I send it back to you for Rockhurst, is a 2027 that recently just committed to Harvard, if it gives you any idea about his IQ, right? And Coach Donahoe and the staff are using that IQ in every sense of the word and all over the field. He is a difference maker at all 3 levels, and that's why I think he's an important factor for Rockhurst going into this game, and it is Blake Thomas. And I think that this series of highlights that you are going to see really define everything that he presents to a Platte County. On offense, he is a sub-11 100-meter guy. He can get over the top of your defense in a hurry. He can also close on a pass as a corner in a hurry, as you can see here in this interception that he takes back for a ways. He can come on the blitz and he gets to you in a hurry. Whether it's that, you can see him here on a sweep. You think it's Cash Lewandowski and then it's Blake Thomas, and goodbye, because you're not going to catch Blake Thomas. And he's also a difference maker on special teams too. So this is a kid, like, if you wanted a guy to go one-on-one with a Brayden Stevens, right? I think Blake Thomas can do that. If you want a guy that, again, you can kind of just try and suck Platte County's defense up and then catch him over the top, Blake Thomas can be that guy. He has been a very, very important weapon for Rockhurst. Obviously, he's not the type of guy that will go under the radar for Coach Oots and that staff, but he's going to be somebody that when he's on the field, offense, defense, or special teams, Platte County has to know where Blake Thomas is.
Well, one of the guys who was on the Platte County graphic is a guy that you brought up on the show and kind of beat the drum for over and over and over again, and that's Brooks Hall. And he feels like, I know he's a guy that you're coming in circling in this one, saying, watch out for this guy because he could have an impact like that on the Platte County side.
Well, you talk about he's got Jack Oots, obviously, but, this Platte County offense is just loaded. I mean, we mentioned Ty Christopher's a guy that we probably don't talk enough about, right? Like, because you've got the steady Eddie that is Trace Baskerville, that can just be the sure-handed guy. You've got Brayden Stevens that's electric, takes the top off. Ty Christopher is kind of that in between, the best of both those worlds, with a little bit more height that can do a little bit of everything. Jack Oots, Adam Gisler that can really go out of the backfield. And now you got Brooks Hall. And Brooks Hall's, like I said, the power fours are starting to go flip on this tape and go, Kansas, you can have that one. We might want this one, because he is physical at 6'5". I'm curious to see just how thick he is, but I mean, as a blocker, he has no problem doing that. And you see that repeatedly in his senior tape, just clearing guys out of the way. But then what he's able to do here as a pass catcher, I think, is what's really elevated his game. So natural, and his ability at his size to, adjust to the pass and plucks the ball ever so softly. I love this last clip because it feels like he hangs here for a 6'5" guy, like waiting on the ball to get to him, and then is still strong enough to take it away from Washburn Rural. This is a guy, look, to be quite frank, I don't know how Rockhurst defends him because, again, I just feel like he presents a problem as a guy that with his size is just very, very hard to defend. And a guy that, again, you have to keep honest, right? Like you need somebody to go with him because he can make a play. But at the same time, like, you can't just leave then Braden Stevens out on an island. So it's definitely a pick your poison for Coach Donahoe and company. And Brooks Hall, I think, is a big reason why that poison has become that much more powerful.
You also picked, when looking at Platte County, a guy that I think is a terrific story in Mogi Walking Stick. He's a guy that was recognized as one of the top 70 Native American athletes in the country, picked to play in the 2025 Native All-American football game representing Cherokee Nation. Ryan, what's Mogi going to bring to this game on Friday night?
I'm glad you brought that up because I think after the show I'll make sure to retweet. There's a fundraiser going that's on Mogi's X account that we can share and see if we can get some added donations in for him. Because, yeah, he's had a really nice season, and he's kind of a kid that I stumbled upon late here as we're starting to prep. Like, I knew Platte County was a team we were going to see in the playoffs. You start thinking, like, is there anybody else that we haven't really talked about or that I don't know on Platte County? And Mogi Walking Stick was a kid that jumped to the front of my mind. And then, you watch the tape, and this is why he's going to be so important against Rockhurst, is what he does when he's coming up into the box. Because, again, I mentioned Cash Lewandowski has been the Rockhurst offense. Yeah, they got Blake Thomas, but it lives and breathes through Cash Lewandowski. You have to be honest in your assessment, which I think you see Mogi Walking Stick doing again and again and again. You've got to be sure on your tackles. You can't guess, but here he is even on special teams tracking things down again with Blake Thomas, Cash Lewandowski. That's where a guy like Mogi Walking Stick can again make an impact. Just so sure in the back half of that defense. And look, here's the other thing with Mogi Walking Stick is I think with Rockhurst, the safety position becomes critical, right? Because you can get, some push from your defensive line, but then the way Cash Lewandowski operates, it's going to be natural. There are going to be some missed tackles at the linebacker level, right? You got to have those guys at safety be your eraser. For K-State fans, there was a former safety named Gary Chandler from Wichita Heights that I remember I asked him if he had a nickname when I was covering him as a player, and he's like, they call me the eraser because I clean up all the mistakes in front of me. Mogi Walking Stick has to be the eraser for Platte County. Between he and a 2027 safety named Matt Sisko, those two guys have to be on their P's and Q's, right? And if there are some mistakes that happen in front of them, they've got to be the erasers because Cash Lewandowski will make you pay.
Super excited for that game. The biggest restaurant recommendation we got, Ryan, was Scott's Kitchen and Catering. It felt like, which is actually really good barbecue. So we might have to do that on our way out. But real quick, let's head out for sort of a 40,000 foot view for a minute. Crazy things happen in the state playoffs, and it's probably not crazy because I'm bad at picking state title teams. But two of my state title picks went out this past weekend. When you look at St. Thomas Aquinas falling in Kansas 5A and Blue Springs South getting clipped in Missouri Class 6, let's take a look at the Kansas 5A bracket real quick. What stands out to you with Aquinas no longer there? And I know your pick was St. James, and St. James is still available, but with the teams that are left there, what are you thinking?
Well, since you kind of talked about the East, let's stay over there. Let's go back to when we were talking about this bracket before any of the games were played. And I mentioned to you, and granted, they still have a test to come to get through this Friday night. But I mentioned to you the possibility of a really good Basehor-Linwood team being kind of rested and lurking for whoever comes out of Mill Valley St. James, particularly if it's a Mill Valley, knowing that they've just exhausted emotionally their tank against an Aquinas and a St. James. You wonder then, like, how that sets up for a Basehor to potentially, what's the word? Backdoor is the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean? Kind of be that out of nowhere number one seed. And I know, again, that's not a disrespect to Coach Stahlbaumer's team, because I think they're really freaking good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everybody's focused on the bottom half of that bracket, so much so that you just wonder which of those teams comes out and how much they have left in the tank and how much they're dedicated to Basehor-Linwood. On the other side, the Salina South, the journey is unbelievable.
It is.
And you think about the community. First off, let me go back real quick. Those two West games, like the environments at both of those stadiums on Friday night is going to be out of this world, because you've got a city showdown with South and Central, and then that rematch of Great Bend and Hayes. We were at the regular season game. Those two teams do not like each other, and now they get a chance to see each other again. Like, oh my God. And it's at Great Bend. But yeah, I mean, the Salina South show is unbelievable. And look, if you're Central, that's probably the last team you want to see, right? Like, on one hand, you're fired up, but on the other hand, here they are continuing to play with house money, and they continue to win. So what a journey, and what a story it would be if Salina South and the Cougars advanced to the semifinals for one more game. But the Great Bend Hayes feels like, the eventual West rep there. And then on the other side, again, I'm really curious to see if Basehor does get by whoever comes out of St. James Mill Valley emotionally, stamina wise, like how much is left in the tank, because you got to have more than you think you need to knock off Basehor-Linwood this year.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and look at Missouri Class 6 real quick, actually, where Blue Springs South went out. Was it a little bit of a surprise for you to see, Blue Springs get the second matchup after Blue Springs South kind of took care of them in the regular season?
Yes, and even more so the way that Blue Springs did it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one where you're checking like the halftime score, like you're telling me Blue Springs South like has barely gotten on the board with like a field goal. Like what? I mean, Blue Springs' defense has been a strength of theirs, but to limit South's offense the way that they did, yes, that very much surprised me. And look, it sets up an interesting matchup. Elias was the Class 5 runner-up a year ago.
Yep.
If Blue Springs can get past them, I think they would have the opportunity to host potentially Nixa at Blue Springs, which would, again, that would be a Blue Springs defense that you're going, not the team that I want to see this late in the year.
Yeah.
They're clicking right now. On the other side, when it comes to, the Kansas City teams, that North Kansas City Lee Summit game has it all. I know that Liberty North being two, in-town rivals is going to get a lot of storylines, but Lee Summit has figured it out. The Tigers have, kind of withstood some injuries and everything to just kind of hang in there. And now they've got both the Hatfields back. You've got Karsten Feeney operating as a tremendous running back instead of a receiver too. Everything just seems to be falling into place for the Lee Summit team that we previewed before the season. And it was like, hey, this is a team to watch. And it just took them a little bit to kind of figure some things out that hadn't gone their way. Now they get a North Kansas City team that you and I were really high on during the regular season.
Yeah, for sure.
What a tremendous game that's going to be. And again, you wonder, like, how much is left out of Liberty and Liberty North in a rivalry game? Like, will they have it, ready to rock against North Kansas City Lee Summit winner? And then CBC Lafayette Wildwood, outside of Kansas City. That to me is the one that, if you're on that bottom half of the bracket, if you're Liberty North, North Kansas City, and Lee Summit, obviously everybody's thinking about CBC, but Lafayette Wildwood moving up from Class 5, if they can get past CBC, everybody knows, whoa, they are for real. So that one would have my attention as well.
that North Kansas City team, we've talked about it before, such a loaded junior class. It feels like as they keep going through the playoffs, and if they get another win in this one, that's only going to make them add up the experience level and everything that they'll have next year, when they'll have maybe even more of a roster to go out and make a run.
Hey, real quick, you mentioned the junior class, and I should have mentioned this when we were talking about Platte County and Rock, but to kind of tie a bow on that in our preview here, that to me is what could help decide this game, right? We're going to find out, are Rock's young guys good enough? Like, are they not only ready for the challenge, but like, are they good enough? You guys saw the graphic there of just not only how senior laden Platte is, but how good these seniors are. You've got Rock that's starting Kevin Novell, 5'10", 280-pound offensive lineman, first offensive lineman starter for Rock since 1984. Saw that from our friend, Market Athletes, Cole Van Blaricon, who also tells me first freshman athlete starter since 2000, Cruz Lewandowski. So
Yep.
2 freshmen that are starting for Rockhurst. No Jack Sprague. They haven't had him since week 1. So they figured some stuff out with a guy like Reese Fisher on the inside, a 2028 lineman at offensive line. So again, I'm not to we've hyped this one up as much as we already have. But again, like, that is an intriguing storyline here of a Rock team. Tristan Johnson is playing more now. Ben Hayes is playing more for Rockhurst. These underclassmen, are they willing and capable of taking down the monster that is Platte, but the seasoned senior monster that is Platte? Okay, now I'm done.
A year ago, Platte was that team, right?
Yeah.
Where it was, hey, these guys are all juniors. Yeah, they've had a great season, but what happens when they get to a deep point? The answer was they went on to win the state title and win it pretty easily. Now those guys are seniors. Can Rockhurst young guys, due to Platte County, basically what Platte County did to everybody a year ago.
Have we talked you into getting an online ticket yet? Like,
yeah, I was going
to. We talked you into making this
game. What are you doing? There are actually a lot of great games this week.
Yeah.
So you're very spoiled for choice if you are somebody who loves high school football in the area. And of course, we love that ourselves. On Friday, Ryan spoke with Maize star Brayden Myovela in the midst of his and Maize's special season. Here's what he had to say.
I'm here with Brayden Myovela after a second-round playoff victory over Wichita East. Brayden, I lost count of how many touchdowns he had tonight. One of those nights, another in what's become a great senior season for you, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What was clicking on offense for you guys tonight? Was there something that you guys found that you were able to kind of exploit there?
Yeah, the run game was there all night. Line was opening up holes. Receivers were blocking downfield, opening gaps for me to run. So,
did you expect to have the kind of individual season that you've ended up having this year coming into your senior season?
The whole team put in work this whole summer. We were out here grinding all summer. We were all doing the same thing, same speed stuff, same strength stuff. So, yeah, we were grinding. We knew we were going to be different this season.
Now, obviously, you've been working at stuff as a receiver. Yeah, when I first saw you as a sophomore, you were playing receiver, back at quarterback. Is it tough to jump around from off season to go quarterback to wide receiver, or is it just something you've gotten used to?
I just try to be an athlete, everything I do. Try to put work in whenever I can at receiver, and also try to get work in at QB, obviously. So.
All-state basketball player as well. Where does the competition come from? Is it a competitive family house at home? Or?
I've been playing travel basketball since I was in pre-K, tackle football since I was first grade. So, yeah, competitive my whole life. Traveled different states all over. See a lot of competition.
There was another dual threat quarterback, Avery Johnson, that was here not too long ago. How cool is it to kind of carry on this legacy of Maize having incredible athletes at the quarterback position?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He went to state 2 years in a row. Hopefully we do the same, bring a state chip home. It's fun seeing what he's doing at K-State.
Let's talk about your recruitment. That's obviously a big thing that fans like to watch from our show. Find out a little bit about what's going on with you. I know Iowa State's involved, K-State, right? And a number of other offers, BC, Tulsa. Where do things kind of stand with maybe some of the local schools? I know K-State fans are kind of interested in where things are with them right now.
Yeah, I've been talking to K-State a little bit, as long as KU. Recruiting been all over the place right now, so just trying to finish out the season, see what it leads me to.
What schools maybe have shown some interest in you late? Haven't maybe pulled the trigger yet, but some schools that have started to maybe pick up their communication with you.
Yeah, K-State again, KU again. I've been talking to UCA. Tulsa offered me early. So, yeah, those three right there.
Are you looking to go play on a scholarship? Is a PWO of interest to you? Now with the transfer portal, could you see yourself maybe going to a lower level and then moving up? I mean, what kind of plan do you have?
You know what, recruiting these days is all a business. So, I'm just trying to get to the next level to showcase my skills to whoever coach it is.
Is it frustrating at all for you being this late into your senior season and not having the recruitment, knowing what you're putting on the field, knowing that Maize is the number one team in the state at 6A?
A little bit, but, I just got to keep grinding. They'll see me.
And then where do you want to play? Obviously, we see you at quarterback here. You've been training with Coach Daniels with wide receiver. Where do you feel like you can play at the next level and be at your best?
I feel like I can play wherever. Wherever the coach needs me, I'll do it.
If you had to give a recruiting pitch to any coaches that might be watching our show, what would you say? Why Brayden Myovela?
I'm versatile, I'm an athlete.
That was Maize quarterback Brayden Myovela, arguably the top uncommitted player left in the state of Kansas. And this has been the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. Thanks to all of you for following along. If you enjoyed what you saw or heard, leave us a comment or review, like this video, subscribe here on YouTube, or hit us with a 5-star rating if you're listening on an audio platform. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.